What happens after the last breath? Does the self dissolve into emptiness, or does it cross into realms beyond human understanding? Welcome, soul traveler, to the mystery of mysteries. Today we embark on a journey through one of the most profound and enigmatic teachings in Tibetan Buddhism. This is a journey into the very core of your being, through the deepest and most mysterious moments of existence. The guide we follow is the Bardo Thodol. But make no mistake, this is not merely a manual for the end of life. The Bardo Thodol is far more than that. It serves as a map, a spiritual compass, that illuminates what happens immediately after physical death. Are you ready to walk this path? Together, we will cross through this portal, decode its hidden messages, and perhaps gain a deeper understanding of what it truly means to exist.
Bardo Thodol was brought into the world by Padmasambhava, a legendary and almost mythical figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, Padmasambhava is revered as the one who introduced Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. In Tibetan tradition, he is known as Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious master, a title reflecting his immense spiritual stature and the transformative role he played in Tibetan Buddhist teachings.
Padmasambhava was not just a monk. He was a deeply enlightened spiritual master, a yogi who perfected mystical techniques and esoteric teachings. His profound wisdom led to the creation of the Bardo Thodol, a text born from his desire to guide not only the living, but also the dead, offering them a path to liberation, even after their final breath. From a young age, Padmasambhava demonstrated extraordinary mystical abilities, quickly gaining recognition as a Mahasiddha, a figure who had reached the highest levels of spiritual realization. His powers, or siddhas, were seen as miraculous, further solidifying his revered status. Padmasambhava was invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, who sought to strengthen and expand Buddhism within his realm. His goal was to unify the Tibetan people under a single belief system, offering spiritual guidance to a nation in need. At the time, Tibet was a land rich in shamanic practices and deeply rooted in the Bon religion, its indigenous spiritual tradition. This diverse and often chaotic spiritual landscape presented significant challenges for the spread of Buddhism. Yet, Padmasambhava's presence and teachings would soon leave an indelible mark on the spiritual fabric. Upon his arrival in Tibet, Padmasambhava encountered strong opposition from various cultural and spiritual forces. The local deities and spirits, rooted in the Banya tradition, resisted the spread of Buddhism. However, Padmasambhava skillfully utilized his knowledge of magic and tantric rituals to tame these spirits. This process of incorporating Bunyatis and practices into Tibetan Buddhism was essential in laying a solid spiritual foundation for the region. In this way, Padmasambhava founded Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, the Samimana Steri, and began imparting profound teachings on the nature of the mind, reality, and the cycle of existence, concepts known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, it is believed that death is not the final end, but rather a transitional phase, a moment that offers the potential for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava recognized that, at the moment of death, the mind enters a unique state, free from ordinary attachments. It presents a rare opportunity for liberation. However, he was aware that most people, when faced with death, become engulfed in illusions and fears, which prevent them from realizing this transformative possibility. His mission was to create a guide that could be recited by those accompanying the dying, or even studied during life, to prepare the mind for the bardos, the transitional states after death. Essentially, he sought to transform suffering into a gateway to enlightenment, even when everything seems uncertain and disintegrating. This compassion is the core of the Bardo's teachings. He understood that many may not attain enlightenment in life, but he viewed death as a final opportunity. Thus, he provided instructions for practitioners and disciples to recognize the clear light, the pure manifestation of the mind at the moment of their passing. The teachings of the Bardas guide us through three main states, or Bardas, that every soul must traverse. The first is the Chakai Barda, the moment of death itself. In this Barda, the soul encounters the experience of death, a point of transition where the physical body dissolves and consciousness is liberated from its material constraints. Once dissolution is complete, the soul stands before the primordial clear light, described in the Barda Thudol as a brilliant, pure, and vast radiance. This clear light represents the absolute nature of the mind, an untainted, unconditional state of consciousness where duality, fear, and attachment no longer exist. It is known by some as the higher self and by others as the solar mind. Many names exist for this state of ultimate peace and mortality. For the spiritual seeker, the Chakai Barda presents the opportunity for final liberation. If the soul is able to recognize the clear light as part of its true essence, it attains immediate liberation, nirvana, without the need to pass through the subsequent stages of the Bardas. This recognition is not reliant on rituals or doctrines. It is a direct and complete experience of the truth, where the mind perceives itself without distortion or filters. In this moment, all karmic conditioning, identities and attachments dissolve. The soul is freed, no longer bound by the limitations of form or thought. It is a return to the original state, where the mind and its true nature become one. On the other hand, for those who are unprepared, the brilliance of the clear light can be overwhelming and even terrifying. Rather than recognizing the light as the essence of their true nature, the mind may interpret it as a threat driven by fear or an attachment to the familiar. In such moments, the soul recoils, missing the opportunity for liberation, and instead descends into the subsequent stages of the Bardos. There it encounters progressively distorted and limiting visions, shaped by its karmic inclinations. 2. The Chagnit Bardo, the Bardo of visions. As Carl Gustav Jung once stated, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful, yet avoidable once we recognize them as aspects of ourselves. In the Chagnit Bardo, the soul exists in a state of pure consciousness, freed from the constraints of the physical body, entering a realm where tangible boundaries no longer hold. Within this dimension, the soul encounters projections of its own mind, which may appear as both serene, angelic forms and terrifying, disturbing visions. This Bardo unveils the essence of the mind, where everything that has been repressed, desired, or feared surfaces in an intensified manner. The visions within the Chatseta Bardo directly mirror the emotional and karmic conditions accumulated by the soul through numerous lifetimes. They appear in two distinct forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. In the peaceful vision stage, the soul is initially greeted by benevolent deities, symbols of enlightened consciousness. These beings may manifest as Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or radiant deities, embodying the positive qualities that the soul has cultivated over time. The peaceful visions exude a tranquil energy, offering a sense of calm and reassurance. However, for a mind unprepared, these visions can seem overwhelming or puzzling, causing the soul to doubt their authenticity and withdraw. As the Bardo progresses, if the soul fails to recognize the inherent peacefulness of the initial visions, it will be confronted with more intense and forceful manifestations. The wrathful deities. These visions arise as a response to the soul's inability to fully embrace the peaceful, essential nature of the experience, and their intensity is a reflection of the unresolved karmic tensions within. These figures represent manifestations of anger, fear, and repressed desires, taking on monstrous and unsettling forms. Crucially, these wrathful deities are not external, malevolent beings, but rather expressions of the mind itself, reflecting the passions and attachments that continue to bind the soul to the cycle of suffering. Shunyad Bada is described as a state where the mind is no longer constrained by physical limitations. It is a pure realm of psychic manifestation, where everything is intensified. The visions that arise may resemble dreams, but unlike ordinary dreams, they possess an extraordinary clarity and vividness. This occurs because the mind, now freed from the body, experiences its internal energies in their raw, unfiltered form. All that was once repressed or hidden within emerges with an almost tangible intensity. These visions are seen as opportunities for growth and enlightenment, as each one reflects an aspect of the self that requires either integration or transcendence. In this state, the mind is encouraged to confront and process these deeply rooted emotions and attachments, ultimately providing the chance to transcend suffering and break free from the cycle of existence. Those who maintain full awareness during the bardo can perceive that all visions, whether peaceful or wrathful, good or bad, are merely creations of the mind. Recognizing this truth allows the soul to overcome fear and attain liberation. At this stage, the Bardo teachings advise the soul to focus on the clear light, the primordial essence of the mind, which is described as a vast and pure radiance. Recognizing this clear light is essential for total liberation, as it represents the innate nature of all beings. It is the sun amidst the clouds of illusions, the light that remains unchanged despite all mental projections. If the soul is able to see beyond the visions, it can achieve enlightenment and transcend the cycle of rebirth. However, recognizing the clear light is not an easy task for the ordinary mind. For most beings, the visions feel incredibly real and are often laden with personal significance. This makes it incredibly difficult to look past them and perceive the true essence of the mind. Despite the challenges, those who can see through the illusions of the mind can ultimately break free from the cycle and reach a state of enlightenment. For this reason, the Bardo teachings emphasize that spiritual practitioners must train during their lifetime to detach from illusions and deeply contemplate the true nature of the mind. Through such practice, even when confronted with the intense visions of the Chognit Bardo, they can maintain focus and clarity. The intensity of these visions can provoke deep fear, especially when encountering wrathful deities that represent the untamed aspects of the psyche. This fear often creates a sense of separation, preventing the soul from recognizing these visions as parts of its own being. In response, the soul may attempt to flee from them, or conversely, it may become fixated on certain visions, especially the peaceful ones, leading it to remain trapped in the cycle of samsara. To break free from this cycle, the soul must come to recognize that these visions are devoid of any inherent reality. In Tibetan Buddhism, this understanding is referred to as shunyata, or emptiness. When the mind recalls this concept of emptiness during the Chognit Bardo, it is able to observe all visions without attachment, recognizing them as temporary expressions of its own nature. By cultivating this awareness, the soul can transcend its attachments and illusions, moving closer to liberation. The experience of the Chognit Bardo is not a punishment or meaningless suffering. Instead, it is a phase of revelation, where the soul faces the mirror of its own mind. This stage acts as a test, distinguishing those who are ready for liberation from those who still require rebirth to deepen their understanding. In the Siddha Badwal, the final stage, the soul confronts a crucial moment, the choice of its next body. This choice is shaped by the accumulated energy of all past actions, thoughts, and intentions, what we call karma. It is as though the entire journey up until this point has led the soul to this decisive moment, where the internal state dictates the next destination. Entering this bardo, the soul has already undergone dissolution in the Chi-Kai bardo and has confronted its projections and illusions in the Chonyi bardo. Now it exists in a state of greater psychic density, where the desire for rebirth becomes stronger, driven by unresolved fears and attachments that have yet to be overcome. This longing, as taught in Tibetan Buddhism, is the force that drives the soul to seek a new body, a new form of existence.
In the Sitibha bardo, consciousness is shaped by karmic inclinations, subtle imprints left by actions from past lives. These imprints act like magnetic forces, drawing the soul towards situations and experiences that reflect its inner state.
For instance, if the soul carries a deep fear, that fear may guide it toward a rebirth, where it will confront similar emotions. Likewise, powerful desires and unchecked emotions generate a vortex of energy that influences the nature of the soul's future life. Throughout the Sitibha bardo, the soul undergoes a series of visions linked to the rebirth process. These visions often depict couples in union, symbolizing the creation of new life. In this moment, the soul is called to choose a new body, unconsciously guided by its emotional tendencies and karmic impulses. In many teachings, the bardo concept emphasizes that upon encountering these visions, the soul must remain detached and lucid. Only through this state can one avoid being driven mindlessly toward an unwanted rebirth. For those who can maintain calmness and detachment, the Sitibha bardo presents one final opportunity for transcendence. There remains the possibility to break free from the cycle of rebirth and choose the path of liberation. This is the ultimate goal of the spiritual practitioner, not to be reborn under the influence of illusions and attachments. Rather, one must recognize these visions as fleeting manifestations of their own mind, empty and impermanent in nature. Throughout the experiences of the Sitibha bardo, consciousness is strongly drawn toward a new form, a process likened to a psychic storm in the bardo teachings. It is as though the desire to continue existing, to be reborn once more, becomes an overwhelming force, one that is difficult to resist. This force pulls the soul back toward another incarnation, despite the awareness that such rebirths are governed by illusion. The choice of a new body is not made consciously. It arises from a deep instinctive call, where the characteristics of the new incarnation are shaped by the state of the mind. The next body seems like a reflection of what the soul's mind needs to experience or resolve. This process mirrors the Buddhist belief that each rebirth offers a chance for spiritual growth.
The soul, in its quest for spiritual alignment, will choose a body that best matches its need for inner calm and development. Yet, many fail to recognize this opportunity and are reborn into unfavorable conditions where suffering perpetuates itself.
However, those who can see beyond this illusion may reach a stage where they transcend the cycle of rebirth altogether. Instead of returning to another life, they merge into the clear light, the ultimate essence of the mind. As outlined in the Bardo teachings, preparation for this final stage begins in life itself, by contemplating the nature of our desires and fears. While we are still alive, we become more aware of the impulses that shape our destiny. Spiritual practices, such as meditation and contemplation on death, cultivate the ability to detach, allowing the mind to remain unaffected by the dramas that arise in the Sitibha bardo. In this way, the Sitibha bardo unveils a simple yet profound truth. Life and death are interconnected, and the cycle of rebirth is merely a continuous manifestation of our own choices and perceptions. By liberating ourselves from attachments, we free ourselves from the cycle of rebirth and attain enlightenment. This is the state where rebirth ceases to exist, for there is no longer the illusion of a fixed identity. The Bardo thought it is not just a religious scripture or a collection of esoteric beliefs. It serves as a tool for self-awareness, a mirror reflecting our mind, and a map guiding our destiny. It teaches us that while death marks the final chapter of the human story, it simultaneously opens the door to new beginnings. As Ramdas once said, "When you die, only one question remains of importance."
How much did you love? The Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to reflect deeply on our lives. Are we truly ready for the final journey? Have we prepared ourselves to let go of everything we think we are? Through contemplation of these teachings, we may not only prepare for death, but also learn to live more fully.
By embracing this exploration into the unknown, we can awaken to a deeper understanding of ourselves. If this journey resonates with you, feel free to share this video and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments what fascinates you most about life after death. The path of self-discovery is long, and together we can unlock the greatest mysteries of existence.
Thank you for watching.